The last couple of days were some of the most productive days I've ever had in the world of AI. And that's because Anthropic released their best model yet, Fable, which is basically Mythos, which was obviously the all the way best AI model ever created with some more safety rails. And I enjoyed it very much so, until they took it away from me. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they took it away. The absolute best model that the AI world has ever seen, Fable 5, is no longer for use. I'm now stuck with all these different chats that state model isn't available, switch to a different model because I was still using Fable in them. And the most annoying thing out of all is really that if you scroll down, you can still see it exists, like it's still there. You just, once you click on it, don't have access to it anymore. But if you guys want a bit more of the rundown, a little bit earlier, right, throughout the week, we had a pretty massive announcement stating introducing Claude Fable 5, a Mythos class model that we've made safe for general use. This was one of the craziest announcements that ever came out. You can see it got 60 million views, but I have to admit, these guys are running a ton of freaking ads, all right? So, Anthropic, if you're watching, sponsor me. But jokes aside, it was absolutely massive. Everybody enjoyed it, and instantly I started typing like a freaking maniac. And many of my friends that were like in a little group chat of sorts of people who are also building cool stuff with AI. Everybody was sharing the most amazing things that they were able to build that were not possible in Opus or just got completely revamped because it was just that good. However, yeah, not too long afterwards, I almost am annoyed to say it, a little post came out, like the last 24 hours. A little post came out, and here's exactly what it reads. And this is kind of funny because if you guys remember, I made a video a couple of days ago talking about the fact that the US government wants sole access to these AI models. Whenever something new comes out, they want to kind of monopolize it so they can make sure that nobody can do sketchy stuff, or rather, so they can kind of like prepare or use the AI before the general access can, and even before some of those major companies like Cloudflare, etc. But I also kind of see it, and this is a personal thing, it's because they want to have control over everything and probably use it in like an offensive way. Even theoretically speaking, defense sometimes is your best offense. If you've got intelligence that's just so good at defense, theoretically speaking, that's a very big threat for the rest of the world as well. So it's very logical they want to have access to it, or just because they want to see exactly what you're looking up on your phone. Who knows, right? Anyway, having said that, the US government, citing national security, and they've got a point, but national security authorities, has issued an export control directive to suspend all access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 by any foreign national, whether inside or outside of the United States, including foreign national Anthropic employees. And the net effect of this order is that we must abruptly disable Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all our customers to ensure compliance. And, well, access to other Claude models is not affected. We apologize for the disruption to our customers. We believe that this is a misunderstanding and are working to restore access as soon as possible. Read our full statement. Well, on that note, one peculiar thing you may question is, misunderstanding? AI is so smart that a misunderstanding is very hard. Now, Main here said, I was almost done vibe coding GTA 7. I like that because Mythos is so good. I really think it could have actually almost done it on its own, funnily enough. Would have taken all your credits, but, it couldn't gotten pretty far in terms of the tech. But here comes the kicker. Doesn't this also just coincide with what I said before, that the US government wants either control, and they want to have it, or nobody can? And since Anthropic basically didn't vouch, they didn't say yes, they didn't cave in, the government was like, you know what? If we are not getting it, nobody's getting this stuff. Maybe that's a little bit more what happened. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, I read through this all, and actually one of the most interesting pieces out of all is the point where it states, and again, I think this is really quite interesting, that Anthropic employees also can't have access to it anymore. So we're now getting to a point in this world where AI has gotten so good, where 4 years ago, we didn't even have ChatGPT, right? 4 years ago, everybody was laughing about it, non-profit is the best way to go, because this, and all of a sudden now we've gotten to a point where it's so good, even the employees can't work on it anymore if they're from a different country. Like, the employees of a company can't work for the company if they're not from the right country. Like, this is getting super interesting, because what they're basically stating in that front is that the tech is getting so good that even though this, let's say another company from that country basically, right? If the tech is just good enough, you need to stop working towards it. Does that also mean that if China comes out with a model that's even better, they're going to be forced to stop, or they're going to get something happen to them, or what? Because that's kind of the direction that this is going, like, some decades ago with the whole arms race and stuff. Now, they cite concerns over potential jailbreaks or things of that sort, even though nobody was able to find it, and the safeguards really are a lot better than for any model before. And apparently, these guys have already been in the works on getting these safeguards perfect for a while. In the weeks leading up to the launch of Fable, Anthropic worked with the US government, the UK ASIE, multiple private third-party organizations, and internal teams to red team Fable's safeguards for thousands of hours in total. And yeah, I mean, you had to, right? Because it was just that good. But really, as of this point, it's seemed to have worked pretty nicely. And again, what's been said is that all the jailbreaks that were found were all basically harmless and stupid, and nothing thus far has been reported to them that could be a very big deal. I will say another thing, and this is actually quite scary. If you're using AI, make sure you pay attention to this. Given that perfect jailbreak resistance does not appear to be possible today, Anthropic adopted a defense in-depth strategy with Fable 5. We aim to make jailbreaks either narrow, in the case of non-universal jailbreaks, or very expensive to produce, in the case of universal jailbreaks. And to combine this with thorough monitoring to quickly detect and shut down any successful attacks. This is also why Anthropic has required 30-day retention of customer data with Fable, a policy change that carries real cost for us with customers, but that allows us to research and mitigate jailbreaks. That is actually a really interesting point, the fact that they require 30-day retention of customers' data with Fable. I mean, if you're just thinking of 30-day data retention, how much that is indeed supposed to cost, that is insane. I guess it leads back to a post right here where they perhaps explain about it more. But for the most part, it just basically said what anybody really already kind of expects, but they don't really realize too much. There's always this notion of they're spying on you, they're keeping your data, they're keeping your prompts forever. Fun fact, a company like Anthropic, theoretically speaking, can learn off of anything you ask the AI, but I guess at some point it's gotten so many data points already that first of all, it's pretty much anonymized, wow, English, not English right there, anonymized, because there's just so many different computers, so many different people, so many different pieces. Then again, AI is so good where it can kind of pin together who it was from, what type of person that was, etc. But also on the opposite side, you know how much storing that data, you know how much actually using that data, interpreting the data is going to probably cost. Because we're not talking about one, we're not talking about a few hundred, tens of million. We're talking about hundreds of billions of data points, especially if we're talking about months on end here. If you're having to log every single question, every single token from basically at some point tens of millions or maybe hundreds of millions of devices, because one person can have multiple devices, multiple Claude accounts, and maybe the enterprise there kind of counts as a few. Damn, that must be an expensive joke. And from that angle, most companies, they sell your data. These guys can learn from it, sure, but from another side, they kind of don't give a crap when they've got Mythos already anyway, right? I didn't even know that was an option for some companies, by the way, to have a zero data retention. Like, I didn't know that was a thing, that you could actually opt to Anthropic and say, you know what, you cannot save our stuff for more than zero for any day ever. It's just 0 days. But I'm guessing, yeah, if it's a massive company and they're talking about sensitive stuff, Anthropic can't have it in their backend. And actually, this puts me in an interesting spot where I think, well, really, when you start looking at just how much companies know about you and how much they're saving, Europe has pretty strong guidelines with their GDPR stuff. And I guess really, when you get back to it, maybe we are a bit more paranoid about how much these companies are holding for us, because we're used to Facebook, we're used to, I guess the Meta suite. But in reality, some of these companies are not as evil in terms of keeping your data because they've got a different earning model. I mean, these guys literally make you pay for every single thing you type into their box. That's where they're making a lot of money from. Theoretically speaking, you are not the ad, even though on another angle, you're typing data in and they can learn from the data, so you kind of are. Anyway, but yeah, so these guys now officially are keeping your data for 30 days, and that changed for a lot of companies as well, which is kind of peculiar, because this now means if there was anything like I just told you guys about, that's kind of like sketchy, I guess supposedly they're going to be able to find it quicker because these guys are going to have to work on it for a while. And so since all the data is logged over a month, they're going to see breaches, I guess, coming slowly piece by piece, perhaps. And I guess they can see what led to it so they can fight it. But it basically just is all happening because of some sort of bypass. Look at this. We received the directive from the government today, 5:21 p.m., The letter did not provide details of its national security concern. Our understanding is that the government believes it has become aware of a method of bypassing or jailbreaking Fable 5. We reviewed a demonstration of this specific technique being used to identify a small number of previously known minor vulnerabilities, and these vulnerabilities all appear relatively simple. And we have found that other publicly available models, maybe like Opus or whatever, are also able to discover them as well without requiring a bypass. So the point that Anthropic is making is, what you're stating, what you're making a big deal about, is not that big a deal. However, I will, again, and call me stupid for this, but I will say that Anthropic also could be lying, right? Maybe they released Fable 5 and they were like, shit, it was a bit too good. There are many vulnerabilities, but they didn't want to make it known to the public, so they used the US government angle from this. Maybe they were like, you know what? Everybody already upgraded their usage because they thought they're going to spam out Fable 5. Everybody now got the most expensive. They got that the $200 a month subscription on 3 accounts now because they thought they were going to have to spam it out. And then they're like, you know what? Let's let this go by. All right, once the month runs out, these guys downgrade again. Then we hit them again with Fable 5, so have to pay again. Could be kind of funny. Yeah, we'll never know exactly what's going on in the back end, right? Because you can't really trust a multi-trillion-dollar company to tell you the truth, right? And you can't really tell the U.S. government to tell you the truth, all with different interests. Who knows? But it's definitely very, very interesting to see this happen right now in real life. AI gotten that good that it's gotten banned. How times have changed. But yeah, that was about it. If you want to see my prompts, you want to see whatever I'm working on with regards to AI, make sure you join our school. Link is down below. And that's about it for this little AI video.